Good morning, folks. Just want to share a blog post to you from Eurogamer, which was about a canceled Bioware project, which seems to be the spiritual successor to Jade Empire. Now, I'm not a fan of Jade Empire. I've never played the game. I like the concepts, and a lot of the ideas from Jade Empire also stemmed from KotOR, which inspired also Mass Effect. So all these things are connected under the Bioware brand. All the people there worked under these things. So this is kind of like one of those projects that never saw the light of day, never got around to things because other projects like Dragon Age were a bit more important and a bit more in development, and they're banking a lot of their stuff on that. So the art released was by Matt Rhodes, and Matt Rhodes is a very well-known artist at Bioware and other places as well, and he just released this recently. And this was also posted on his Instagram, so you could already get a certain style of quality of what sort of world this is, what setting this is. Some of these pieces of art are very strange. They seem somewhat familiar, and it gives you a certain vibe of the concept art for Bioware in general that we've seen, whether it's for Dragon Age or Mass Effect or other things like that. It has that Matt Rhodes flavor. So it feels very similar, like, oh yeah, this is a Bioware sort of inspired thing. Now, I don't know what kind of game this would have specifically have been, because it seems to be a mix of fantasy and technology and mysticism. It's a bit of everything. So corporatism is here and there. You got some sort of Hong Kong influence with the city design and level design. A lot of crazy concepts from Matt Rhodes. But that's typical Matt Rhodes. He does a lot of cool stuff that is kind of like the heart and soul of a design. Usually you have visual designers to represent things in games that you can't think of yet. So they ask the visual designer, what should this thing look like? But when it comes to designing like movies and stuff, you have storyboards, you have placing out frames, and all these ideas they could be placed in like a comic book. They could be placed anywhere. But that's what you want. You want this visual cue to sort of isolate and focus on. Like this is a crazy image. Just look at this. You got this person, it looks like pajamas or sweat tops with a hulking broadsword of sorts, smoking, all kinds of weird things going on. Like they're wearing a cape. You got screens in the background. There's some sort of committee behind them. Like this feels like cyberpunk, but there's something else around there. And it's this mix of genres that really get your imagination going, which is the point of concept art. Just doesn't really speak to me, but you definitely got the Dragon Age feeling here with a little bit of something else. Not sure what that is. Like this is weird. Like, whoa, what's going on here? Was this a main character? What's happening with this chick? Another massive sword design, but very quick and easy. Very cyberpunkish right here. Almost feels like Vampire the Masquerade a bit. Some of these character designs. Interesting. Not very practical, but again, very interesting color palette. Very clean lines. A little bit of parkour, I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know if that would have been an actual feature in the game. This is just ridiculous. So now we're getting more corporate looking designs here. Oh no, I'm looking at Metal Gear all of a sudden. Okay, so just typical character designs, fashion. Oh dear, this feels like I'm reading a DC comic or watching a DC cartoon. Wow, okay, getting some sci-fi stuff going. Like all this stuff, all the character art from all the Bioware games or the Bioware staff is awesome. And it is for any real game studio, because this is where everyone gets inspired. This is where all the ideas start coming together. Wow, what is this? What does this feel like? If you guys are a fan of anything Bioware, this should immediately speak to you. So, and it just keeps going. Like this is very, very cyberpunk, very, very Hong Kong vibes. Flavor. I don't know if this would just be an adventure game. Like you could cut this as an adventure game, as a screen, create your own grid, have a bunch of objects to click on, or it could be real-time 3D, third person. Like look at that. It feels like you can go exploring in this place. Very similar to Dragon Age 2, I would say. The concept art, at least. The color palette's a bit brighter, a bit more magical, a bit more technology. Running around with swords and guns and who knows what else. Oh, cool. Very cool. We got some political elements there. That's always neat. Again, very Vampire the Masquerade-ish. Whenever that sequel's coming out. Cool. Like, all very well done, well articulated designs. Industrial parks. Fantastic stuff. Oh, there's very Jade Empire-ish. Very Asian influenced. More character designs. Yeah, so it's going back to technology. All this wonderful armor. We saw this with Dragon Age as well as Mass Effect for many of the enemies. Matt Rhodes was heavily involved there. That looks kind of wild. ISA. Not sure what these are. But, you know, generic mooks, soldiers, bad guys to fight. Very, very reminiscent of typical game design. Okay. Now this is where we get a little more into the hero poses or the character designs. Could be a customizable character, but you see that the magic element there going on. Big hunk of metal for a sword. Never really liked those concepts, but showing off some possible designs. Same concepts, only male. Love the business attire. Was it business tactical? What do you call that? It's very stylish. Bound to get dirty. And here we got some more concepts for maybe a brawler type unit or character design. All right, getting a little magical here. Using a few filters in Photoshop. Okay, that's over the top. An engine connected to a drill with that one-handed chain gun. Like, all right, that's crazy. There we go. A little more practical, more main character like. Might be doing some parkour. Don't know. Yeah, very, very, very classic look. You can see this in comic books like all throughout the 90s. Yep. Feeling more Jade Empire as we go. A little more futuristic though. Yeah, this is pretty standard stuff. So this has been around for a while, and just to read some of the comments here, we found a dude named Sean McGaw, and here's his LinkedIn. He was at Bioware for 2 years in July 2006, which is around the time this thing was being built. And he even says, yep, worked on this game. Awesome art, playable, and starting to feel great. Lots of interesting systems that made it into other games. So happy that Matt's stuff is seeing the light of day. So this is what's happening. Projects at Bioware were being worked on in tandem with their bigger other projects. And they didn't see the light of day, but the concepts and the mechanics were transferred over to those games, which is good. I mean, it's good to see that projects weren't completely scuttled and trashed, that people who were working on those other projects were allowed to use their efforts and concepts and port them over to their games that actually got published. Now, we don't know exactly what mechanics were ported over or what concepts, but it's nice to see that they weren't completely wasted. So he talks about another artist called Kevin Chu, who started a project called Project Red Gun, when it had a more Jade flavor too. They won't let me post links, yada yada. But it's basically cyberpunk with magic instead of tech, monsters instead of machines, and a storyline of corporations based on the 7 deadly sins. The storyline of Knights of the Round Table mixed with the Emperor from Warhammer 40k. I've thought about how cool this all was for the last 15 years. So here you have a mix of genres and a mix of ideas, which is crazy. Because you saw these photos or this imagery, it's just like a whole bunch of ideas just thrown together in a mix of genre. So warriors and knights and corporations and political influence. And it's just like wild stuff that they just ran with. And maybe if they had a more concise design or bigger budget, or they push to their producers more or their publishers, hey, we want to do a third project aside from Bioware's 2 flagship titles. Well, you might have seen a cool character design like this pop up here and there. And I guess you could say, okay, Mass Effect 2 was heavily inspired because that's the time it was being made. Like, yep, for sure. You could totally see it. But we never got this game. We never got a sequel to Jade Empire or an amalgamation, which is kind of cool when you think about how these games came about. What inspired Mass Effect? KotOR. What inspired Dragon Age? Jade Empire. All these other elements. So it's pretty cool. Just thought I'd share this story with you guys. But just sad to see that these projects don't get seen the light of day. And Bioware is still struggling, trying to get their concepts out, despite what's been happening to them recently. Anyway, thank you for listening. Have yourself a wonderful morning.